Hey Dragons, this is Unit 3 test review. I want to point out some things that you can do on this exam and on problems that you'll see on your STAR exam as well. I want you to look at all of the answer choices that simply have numbers. Look at number 1, I have numbers. Number 3, numbers. Number 5, straight numbers, that's answer choices. 6, 7, 8, 10. Any of these problems that simply have numbers as answer choices, when all else fails, you can simply take a number and substitute it into the equation and find the one that works. So we want you to work it algebraically, but want you to realize that if all else fails, you can simply pick a number, plug it in, punch it in on your calculator on a normal screen, and you see what happens. All right, so here we go. Problem number 1. If this is a two-step equation, we're going to add 2 to both sides, and we're going to have 1/5 x is equal to 10. Okay, several ways you can do this. You can either multiply by the reciprocal of 1/5, which is 5/1. You can do that to both sides. Any number times its reciprocal is 1, and then you get x equals 10 times 5 divided by 1, which is 50. The other way you could do this problem is that you could take the 1/5, that becomes a nice decimal. It's not long, it doesn't repeat, and we can go with decimals. If this looks better for you, you can divide both sides by 0.2, and you still get 50. Now, we could also do just put the number in. If I take 50 and come up to the original problem and plug in a 50 where I see the x, if I type that in, my calculator on a regular screen, I get 1/5 times 50 minus 2 is 8, which is what we have right here. All right, let's go a little faster here. Solving this guy for A, so that's the guy I want. What's happening to A? It's being multiplied by M. What's the opposite of multiplying? Dividing. So we'll divide both sides by M. M over M is 1. So A is equal to this fraction, which is answer choice C. Okay. Over in problem number 3, again, if we don't know what to do, we could plug the numbers in one at a time over here and type it in and see which one would equal 10.5, and we pick that particular answer. Another technique that we've been showing is we can come over here and split this in half. If you want to do that, 1.75 parentheses 4x minus 12 can go on y1, and the other side is 10.5, put that in y2. Graph and see where they cross. Remember, if you don't see them crossing, it's you press zoom 0. To go back to the regular is zoom 6. Let's see if it'll show up on the regular screen a little better. It does not, so we're going to do a zoom 0. Go back to what we had. And we want to know where they intersect. So we do a second, calc, 5, enter, enter, enter. And we see right here x is 4.5. Oh, there it is right there. Inequalities, we do the same process. We will distribute. Make sure you take care of your signs. And we'll move it to one side or the other. I'm just going to go left, so we have this plus 5x plus 5x. Negative 6 plus 5 is a negative 1 in front of the x. 12 is still there, greater than plus 3, because remember, adding doesn't flip a symbol. Adding does not flip a symbol. Neither does subtraction. So if I subtract 12 from both sides, I still have a -1 in front of the x is greater than 3 minus 12 is a -9. Okay, so at this particular stage, I've worked it to where my last step is going to be dividing by a -1. Uh-oh, ding, 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 ding. If I divide by a negative, what happens to this inequality symbol? It flips. So greater than will become less than. I've got x, and a negative divided by a negative is a positive. That looks like answer choice A. Same thing over here. We need to solve the inequality. I'm going to move this one to the right side with subtraction. I get 120 is less than 40 minus 30m is 10m plus 50. Okay, I can subtract 50 from both sides, and that gives me 70 is less than 10m. Divide by 10. Dividing by a positive 10 will not flip the sign. So I've got 7 is less than m. Okay, and if I want to write it as the variable being first, I just flip everything over. So m would be greater than 7. Okay, so which one of these numbers, if I plugged it in this guy right here, would be false? Well, 13 is greater than 7, that's true. 11 is greater than 7, that's true. 9 is greater than 7, that's true. Is 7 greater than itself? The answer is no. Now, if all else fails, what you can do is you can start with the original problem. And if I plug in a 7 here and here, I will have something that is false. Okay? We want you in algebra to be able to solve and get a simplified expression. When all else fails, if they give you a number, you can plug it in and see which one works. So number 6, what is the value of x in the equation? Essentially, which one makes it true? Okay? So we can go through, we can either put in our calculator, we can use that technique, we can distribute and solve it. 3/4 x plus 6/4 is equal to x minus 6. We can do that. If all else fails, we're just going to take numbers and just plug it in twice and see which one makes it true. So as we continue on with this has fractions, so maybe we want to try the old calculator technique again on this one. I'm just going to go back to the original. 3/4 parentheses x plus 2. The other side is x minus 6. So we double check and make sure that's all good. And we press graph, and I have a zoomed out. Actually, those lines are kind of yucky here. Let's see what happens on the regular screen. Zoom 6. We've got that. All right. So I don't see them. So actually, the zoom out is probably better. Zoom 0. Go back to that and see if I got a better picture of that. Let's see if the second Calc 5 will work. 5, enter, enter, enter. Oh, it's not doing that. All right, so sometimes, let's see. Let's go with the zoom. Let's see if zoom out will work. If I'm able to zoom out. Sorry about that. Yeah, sometimes if you do a zoom 3, zoom out, you'll get it. All right. So the calculator does have limitations. So I see them crossing. If I do a second Calc 5, enter, 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 and I get 30. 30. It's probably easier just to go through and plug the numbers in and see what's working. All right, on this one, I see an equation. Again, f of x is the same thing as y, so y is 11. So I'm finding a x. So when I go to my table on my calculator, I want the y to be in the 11 to be in the y column. All right, so what do we got? 3x plus 2, second graph, and I put it in Y2, it doesn't really matter. All right, so let's find an 11 in the Y column. There it is. And when Y is 11, that means X is 3. All right. On this one, there are several ways you can do this. You can take 7 divided by 8 on your calculator and you get 0.875. If you want to do that, I wouldn't put this one in there because it's yucky. All right. This maybe show you that, hey, if I'm solving this, I'm going to divide both sides by 0.875. So this looks kind of weird. I've got a fraction divided by a decimal. So if we kind of make that look clear on our calculator, if we do an alpha y equals enter, we can type in our 9/7. Okay, and now hit the division button, and then just type in the 0.875. Okay, yucky. So we do math, enter, enter. And we get 72 over 49. Oh, there we go, 72 over 49 is C. The other way we can do this is we can multiply, take the fraction in front of the variable, flip it over, and that's what we multiply the other fraction by. So if we do this right here, guess, look what we get. 9 times 8 is 72 on top, 7 times 7 is 49 on the bottom. So it really doesn't matter which way you do this. And you can even do a y1 equals y2 on your calculator and do a second calc 5. There are just so many ways you can do this problem, most of these. All right, which of these correctly solves for the equation we're solving for y? So I'm going to flip the pancake over here. I'm going to put the 5y minus 2 on the left, and I'm going to put the 4x plus 3 on the right because all my answers have the y on the left. It's just a little easier visually. All right, so I'm going to zero out the things that don't have a y. That 5y is equal to 4x plus 5, and I will divide everything by the coefficient of y, which is 5. So that gets divided by 5, and that gets divided by 5. 5 divided by 5 is 1. I need a slope of 4/5 in front of the x, and so b. Okay. So on 10, again, we could do a y1, y2, second calc 5. We can do it by hand, or we could just take the numbers individually, plug them in, and see which one works. I really wouldn't recommend just plugging these in because that's going to be really time consuming. Since your test is timed, you might want to save that for a last resort. So over here, I got to remember that in front of this parentheses, there's really a -1 when I distribute. A negative times a negative is a positive. A negative times a negative is a positive. So I got rid of that. Keep the negative 4x out front. Equal sign, distribute a -2. Negative times a positive is a negative. Negative times a positive is a negative. Make sure you do the 2 times 1 as well. All right, we can combine these two guys. They're on the same side of the equation. So that's a -1x plus 2 is equal to -10x minus 2. I'm going to zero this out by adding 10x to both sides. And a -1 plus 10 is 9. And it's starting to look like something we saw in 7th grade. So I'll subtract 2 from both sides. That's a 0. 9x is equal to a -4. Divide by 9. -4/9. There we go. All right, looking at this one, first of all, you should realize that this is going to be a negative slope because it's from left to right, it's going down. Okay, so if I do a slope triangle, I go up 11, and then I go left 3, so that's a -3. And remember, it's rise over run. So you got to make sure you put the 11 over the 3. So -11/3 is your slope. If we do a domain and range, we can do a box method here, kind of where he started it. Okay, on the x-axis, we go from a low of -5 right here to a high of -2. X is in the middle. At -5, we have an open circle, so it's just less than. At -2, there's a closed circle, so it's less than or equal to. If we now go from on the y-axis, we had a low of -3 and a high of +8. Low on the left, high on the right, and we will put a y in the middle because that's range. At -3, we have a closed dot, so it's going to be less than or equal. At 8, we have an open dot. Okay, this is going longer than I thought, but whatever. All right, I can go down here and do the y equal thing and just go searching here. We got a 5x minus 39, second graph. What is that? Is that an x or a y? This is inside the parentheses, so that is an x. So when I look at x is 3, what is y? It is -24. You can also plug in the 3 right here. And that 15 minus 39 is equal to -24. Calculator or by hand. All right, we got the same equation, so I don't have to do this. Remember, f of x is y, so y is 56. So I'm going to look for a 56 on the y. There it is, right there. If y is 56, that means x is 19. So I could also put the 56 in right here, is equal to 5x minus 39, and you could solve for x. Guess what you're going to get? You're going to get 19. Last one. If I count the number of lines that are connecting inputs and outputs, there are 5. So the answer of 4 ordered pairs is not correct. And so is it a function? Do I have any repeating x's? And I do. 0 is trying to have an output of -2, and it's trying to have an output of 1. So the correct answer there is C. Good luck.